behalf of the Work Better Now team, I'd like to welcome everybody to Working Better Now, a series featuring a Q&A with a successful business leader. And I'm really thrilled and psyched to be joined today by Peter Morandi from Eastman Cooke Construction. Peter, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, Rob, thank you for having me. Appreciate having this opportunity.
The pleasure is all mine. Let's jump right in, Peter. Tell us a little bit about Eastman Cooke Construction.
We're a construction company based out of Manhattan. We have two offices, one on Long Island and one in southern Manhattan, downtown. We started up almost 12 years ago, and we're performing really great work for a couple of verticals. One is the automotive industry, one's the medical industry, the corporate interiors, and we're also doing some really great work for nonprofits.
Terrific. And when you say automotive industry, do you mean car dealerships or something else?
Car dealerships, exactly. Companies like Land Rover, Jaguar, Mercedes, CarMax, most of the luxury brands, and some of the used car dealers that are out there. Gotcha.
Terrific. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to Eastman Cooke.
That's an easy question. I've been doing this since I was very, very young. It's in my family. I'm a fourth generation contractor. Started up in Boston with my family up there and made a move down 20 plus years ago. Man, it's been almost 25 years now that I think about it, after college to come work down in New York. And worked for a couple of companies down here, and then decided in the midst of a financial crisis in 2008 to open up a new company. I said, what a better time than during one of the worst economic times we've ever seen in our country.
And of course, it is always a good time. It just may not feel like it at the time. It certainly doesn't look that way to people who are not entrepreneurs, but it is a great time.
We learned a lot. And I think that we really got some really good grit to the company by learning how to bootstrap early on in the midst of a financial crisis. And from there, we have just gone up. We've grown year over year. We have more interesting projects. We have more repeat clients. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're looking to do is not just be a one-off for one of our clients, but just to keep building for them. They have more projects. We want to be the one that they give the first phone call to.
Yeah, I've seen your projects on LinkedIn, and they're really cool looking.
Yeah, thank you.
The buildings you pass when you're in a car, you're like, oh, that's a really cool looking building. Turns out you're doing that.
Peter, it's a fun story to tell my kids when we're driving down to a Yankee game, pointing out some of the buildings that I built over the years, to the point where now they're pointing the buildings out to me. Didn't you build that one, Daddy? Did you build that one? Yes, I did. So it really is a badge of honor to have something that's standing the test of time that we were able to build.
Not only that, but if your kids think you're cool, I mean, you're way ahead of all of us.
Yeah, moderately cool.
Right.
It's not too far ahead of ourselves.
I'd be pretty happy with that. Peter, tell us a little bit about what your team looks like.
So we have a large management team, a largely management team, I should say. We have about 25 players. And that's what we do. We manage construction projects. So we don't provide carpentry or plumbers or electricians. What we do is we provide the staff that coordinates all of that work. So superintendents, project managers, accountants, assistant project managers, and then a senior management staff as well. And we're the group that puts all the pieces in place and makes sure that the schedule stays the way it's supposed to stay, that the finances stay the way they're supposed to stay, and that the project gets completed within all the confines that go with building in New York, with all of the building codes, all the regulations that come through the different departments. We're the ones that take ownership of all that work. We're not the architect or engineer. We coordinate what the architect and engineer says with the trades that are actually going to physically build the buildings out there.
Gotcha. And would you say it's sort of like being the quarterback?
It very much is the quarterback. So one day that we have to understand construction details. One day we have to be a lawyer to understand contractual details. One day we have to be a psychological analyst and be able to convince someone to do something that they really don't want to do, but we get them to do it anyways. And some days we get to be the group that looks back on something that we've built with a lot of pride. Those are my best days, when we show up on a job site and things are going better than we thought they would, or you see all these really relatively small pieces of building materials that you put on top of each other and built something that is just phenomenal.
That your kids even say it's cool, right?
Right.
So with all of that, what do you consider your role as CEO to be?
I'm really the guy who really gets people to do their best work. It's the best way I can put it, is that my role as a CEO really asks for the individuals that work for the company, that are really my team members, are really my partners in the business, to do the things that they do best. When I say their best work, because they have such knowledge in financial management or project management or being a field superintendent, understanding construction details, construction contracts, or construction finances. Those are the best and the brightest in the industry at Eastman Cooke. So my job is to set some strategy and let that core four, as I call them, go and do all the things that execute on that strategy.
Fantastic, which is really what a business owner and CEO should be doing, but very few, as you know, very few do that, right? A lot of them are micromanaging and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible that you've built that team that you can rely on that way. At Work Better Now, we believe that how you do things is just as important as what you do. What are some of the things that Eastman Cooke does very well that makes you guys a leader in the industry?
Communication with our clients. We take a contract, and I shouldn't say this in public, but I do it all the time. We take a contract and we stick it in the drawer, and we hope that we never have to look at it again. Because what we do is figure out how to get a building built and how to get a business doing the things that they do. How do they generate revenue, and how can we help them to then go and have a new building or a new build out that helps them to generate revenue by being able to do medical procedures, sell cars, do great things for the community, have a business somewhere in the city or in the outer boroughs or in Long Island or New Jersey. How do we get to that end goal without ever having to take that contract out of the drawer? Because we do what we say we're going to do, and the client does what they say they're going to do.
Terrific. And how would you say Eastman Cooke is doing when it comes to leveraging technology? Is there anything interesting that you guys are doing there? Well, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff that's going on. So any of the new technologies out that you've seen, we're utilizing. So we use some great software called Procore. We have invented our own estimating platform. We have drones and drone pilots on staff that take pictures of our sites, which is a great way not only to tell our clients where we're at on a project, be able to use as some of our promotional material as well. We are also looking to develop different kinds of technology, things that aren't on the market yet, but we're willing to invest some money in to see if we can make things better. So for instance, we had a temperature tag in process, which was actually a keychain fob that an individual worker would bring up to their forehead, and it would send their temperature to their phone. So when they were entering the job site, you didn't have to wait in these long lines to get in to show that you have a negative COVID test or nowadays have a vaccination, but you could show what your temperature was in real time. And it was a time and attendance tool, and it was a temperature taking tool as well. So our timing may have been a bit off, and it wasn't really a great requirement that wasn't a long-lasting requirement for our job sites. But that's the kind of stuff that we look to do to see how we bring efficiencies to, to the projects that we're working on, but more so to the industry itself. We have a program right now that's in its infancy that we're working with LaGuardia Community College for a workforce program, which is taking individuals in their certificate and in their associate's degree programs, matching them up with different contractors, different subcontractors, trade contractors, and developing the next generation of the workforces. Eventually, what will happen with that is that we'll have a technology platform that will match them together. It's sort of the Uber meets Tinder of construction worker and trade contractor. And what we'll have the ability to do is measure progress, measure time and attendance, measure safety, for instance. And then the employers can go and take a look at this and say, I want a 5-star worker. I don't want a 2.5-star worker. And we'll have some real data behind it that will be able to provide those analytics and be able to provide that data that will make, in my mind, will build a better construction worker. At the end of the day, that's what we need. We know that we're in a labor crisis. We know that we're in a material crisis. What can we do as individuals to make sure that that curve is not so steep and projects don't get built?
Yeah, it seems to me, not being in the industry, that you are really you're being really aggressive about leveraging technology to streamline a business that has so many different moving parts. And I got to imagine, a slowdown with one part or, a slowdown with productivity has a massive impact on when a project gets done and the bottom line. So that's really cool to hear that. Peter, tell us a little bit about your experience with Working Better Now assistants, Pamela, Priscilla, etc. What has that been like for you?
They're wonderful. They've taken on a new role that we didn't have before, but filling in on very, very, very necessary things that our company needs to do. And what we've been able to do is in estimating, in project management, in executive assistant levels, put an individual who is so focused and so dedicated to what we do in place. And that was the work that was the administrative part of it was done by someone else, but not concentrated on. So what we've been able to do is put a very detailed scope of work together and say, go and execute. And it's been nearly flawless. It's been really great. So we can take the pressure off of an estimator to think more in depth, to be more thoughtful about a project, because she doesn't have to worry about following up with subcontractors to get bids in or to get qualifications in. For a project manager, following up on submittals, following up on RFIs. Our admins, they do that work for us, and they're great at it. They're relentless, actually. And we hear it from our subcontractors, which we're glad to hear about. They say, when you guys need something, you've got an army of people, don't you, that keep calling us and asking us for things. We say, well, it's not quite an army, but we do have a very concentrated force that does just that. And it's allowed the rest of our staff to be more productive, really. At the end of the day, that's what we were looking for. We're looking for how do we become more effective and more productive on the things that really push the needle on our projects. And if we're bogged down with having to do some of that administrative work, it absolutely kills productivity, and things get missed, and we miss deadlines, and there's a financial impact. When we have a staff that is now expanded, so rather than relying on one or two of our employees to do something, we can expand that to 3 or 4 and include our virtual assistants in it. Now we're really getting to a point where productivity has not just come to a benchmark, but has exceeded it.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. So it seems to me that your Work Better Now assistants have taken some of the administrative work off of some of the key players in Eastman Cooke, and in doing so, it sounds like they're able to be more productive, and I'm going to guess happier because they're focusing on the stuff they really like to do, as opposed to maybe some of the administrative work that they don't like to do. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think you're definitely getting that right. When we have a seasoned professional who's been doing this for 20, 25 years, some of our staff here has been doing it for longer than that, and they can't focus on their best work, which might be figuring out some very complex scheduling or some complex financial arrangements, or even the details on a set of plans. When we have someone that can relieve them of doing the administrative side of that work, it has to be done. There's no doubt on a project, those things have to be done. But be able to give them some relief and be able to focus on the things that are really important, but may require some more thoughtfulness, is just integral to our business. I also think that when we have a cohesive team, and we have a cohesive team that takes responsibility for what they need to do, we don't have, with our virtual assistants, we don't have a relationship that says, here's a list of 10 things to do. Make sure you get them all done. We have virtual assistants who say, I've done this before, I know that I need to do it again, and take the initiative to do it. Okay, we went through this phase of it. I understand there's another phase after that. What I'm going to assume that I needed the same things from the phase before it, and what things would you like to add to it? Because we'll make sure that we get those done effectively.
That's great. Sounds like they're being proactive. That's terrific.
Oh, absolutely proactive.
Terrific. Peter, what do you like to do when you're not working?
I'm a triathlete. Although COVID had an interesting effect on competing as a triathlete, but getting back into the swing of that one again. I love to go fishing and golfing. Two hobbies that are always in conflict with each other, but certainly I love to do both of them. And I like to do any of those things with my kids, 4 kids, and which means a lot of baseball, a lot of drama productions, and all the things, all the rest of it, college visits and all those things that go along with having kids. But all those things together really are the things that outside of my work life, I try to squeeze in, and sometimes during my work day too.
One of the benefits of owning your own business. Peter, where can people find out more about you and Eastman Cooke?
So we have a great website. We're pretty proud of that. Shows off our work in some of the publications that we've been published in. And then, my phone picked up. And then certainly on LinkedIn, that's a big platform for us, and Facebook as well.
Terrific. And just for everybody out there, it's Eastman Cooke, Cooke with a E at the end.
Correct.
Terrific.
Correct.
Peter, thanks so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to spend some time with the Work Better Now community. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Rob.